The celestial warning. The universe had always whispered, but for the first time in history, humanity realized it was listening. It began as a ripple, though faint, fragile, almost indistinguishable from cosmic background radiation. A graduate student at the Atacama Array was the first to notice, a small spike that repeated every 41 seconds. At first, her professors dismissed it as a calibration error. Yet as the days passed, observatories in Hawaii, Siberia, and even the lunar station confirmed the same anomaly. The pattern was no accident. Hidden in the static of the universe was a message. When the signal was finally decoded, it spoke not in words, but in harmonics that became symbols, then symbols that became meaning. What it said shook the world. The Starborn awaken. All mortal civilizations must prepare. The phrase was repeated over and over, interwoven with celestial coordinates pointing toward a distant, dying star at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. The message went viral within hours of its release. Some called it a hoax, a cosmic prank. Others whispered of angels, demons, or something worse. The faithful claimed it was a prophecy fulfilled, the skeptics insisted it was nothing but clever human fabrication. But the scientists knew better. The mathematics in the transmission were undeniable, filled with constants that no human mind could have constructed alone. For the first time, Earth was united in uncertainty. The debate of leaders. The United Nations called an emergency summit. Every leader sat in the same chamber, their faces tense under the weight of history. Some demanded silence, fearing panic. Others argued humanity must respond at once to prove it was ready. A frail but determined astrophysicist, Dr. Samuel Arian, silenced the room with a simple statement. Something greater than us exists. It has reached across galaxies not to destroy, but to warn. If we ignore this, we condemn ourselves. If we answer, we may become part of something vast. The chamber fell into silence, and then, reluctantly, fearfully, yet with undeniable resolve, a decision was made. Humanity would not remain silent. The Dawnspire. From that moment, humanity turned its entire industry toward a singular dream, to reach the source. It took decades of sacrifice, collapsing economies, and desperate cooperation. But the goal was no longer just survival, it was destiny. The ship they built was called the Dawnspire. Not a vessel of war, but of passage. She was as long as a city, her hull forged from lunar steel and asteroid alloys. Her engines were experimental quantum drives, designed to lead not through space, but through folds in reality itself. But the Dawnspire was not crewed only by scientists or soldiers. Humanity decided that this voyage was not conquest, but representation. Artists, philosophers, farmers, and children boarded the vessel, carrying fragments of Earth's cultures, songs, stories, seeds, and soil. Humanity was not sending explorers. It was sending a living testament of who they were. Captain Elara Vey, chosen for her rare blend of discipline and imagination, stood on the bridge as the Dawnspire ignited her engines. Her voice, calm and unwavering, was broadcast to billions. We do not go as conquerors, nor as beggars. We go as humanity, fragile, flawed, but unyielding. To those who called us, we answer. And with that, the Dawnspire vanished into the dark. The first contact. What awaited them was not silence, nor the emptiness of space, but light. The Dawnspire emerged into a system of broken suns, their corpses orbiting a single beacon that pulsed like the heartbeat of a god. The crew watched in awe as colossal beings drifted between shattered planets. They were not ships, not creatures, but something greater, luminous figures of radiant fire, their bodies woven of starlight, their faces like shifting constellations. The beings spoke without sound. Each human felt the words not in their ears, but in their bones. We are the Elythar, guardians of the balance. Children of Earth, you have come. Captain Elara stepped forward, every nerve trembling yet her voice steady. We received your warning. Who are the Starborn? The Elythar's light dimmed, as though even gods could feel sorrow. They are the darkness before creation. The hunger that precedes stars. They have slept for 1 billion years, but now they stir. Alone, we cannot withstand them. But together. One of the Elythar extended a hand of blazing energy, vast as a continent. Together, perhaps even gods may hope. The crew stood in stunned silence. These were not deities of myth demanding worship. They were warriors asking for allies. Humanity had not journeyed into the stars to kneel. It had journeyed to stand. The choice. The Elythar revealed glimpses of what awaited, worlds consumed by shadow, suns smothered by serpents of void. The Starborn were coming, and every civilization, mortal or divine, would either stand against them or perish. The crew of the Dawnspire debated through long nights. Some feared it was a trap, others believed Earth was too fragile to involve itself. But Captain Elara's answer silenced doubt. If gods themselves fear what is coming, then humanity has no choice but to fight. For if the void reaches Earth, there will be nothing left to save. We have always survived by standing together in the dark. This is no different. And so humanity gave its answer to the Elythar. Not as servants. Not as worshippers. But as allies. The stars trembled, as though acknowledging the weight of their choice. Somewhere, in the endless void, the Starborn stirred. Humanity had taken its first step into a war beyond imagination. The celestial warning had been heard. And the galaxy would never be the same. Forged in the divine crucible. The Elythar were not gods in the way humanity once imagined. They did not sit upon thrones, demand offerings, or smite unbelievers. They were guardians, beings of radiant energy whose lifespan stretched beyond galaxies, yet whose purpose was singular, to preserve creation from what lurked beyond it. But even gods could bleed. The first lesson humanity learned was that the Elythar were not invincible. In secret chambers hollowed from dying stars, the Dawnspire's crew witnessed scars across their luminous bodies, rents in light, wounds carved by battles against the Starborn in forgotten epochs. For all their magnificence, the Elythar were weary. Their strength, though vast, was waning. And so, they offered humanity a gift. The Crucible of Flame. Captain Elara Vey was the first to step into the Crucible, a vast chamber suspended in the heart of a star, where plasma raged like an ocean of fire. The Elythar guided her into the core, wrapping her fragile body in a cocoon of protective light. "This is not ascension," intoned Izirian, the golden-eyed herald of the Elythar. "This is a trial. You will not become as we are. You will remain human. But you will carry our fire within your veins. That fire will either forge you, or consume you." Elara closed her eyes. If we are to fight gods of darkness, then humanity must become something more. The chamber erupted. Energy poured into her bones, her cells, her very thoughts. For a moment, she felt herself dissolve, flesh giving way to starlight, memories unraveling into equations. She was no longer Elara, no longer human. She was a flicker in the great burning tapestry of the cosmos. And then, with a shuddering gasp, she returned. Her skin was etched with faint lines of light, glowing like rivers beneath the surface. Her eyes shimmered as though reflecting a hidden star. The first Starforged had been born. The making of warriors. News of Elara's transformation spread through the Dawnspire like wildfire. Volunteers came forward by the hundreds, soldiers, engineers, medics, even civilians. All of them wished to undergo the crucible. Not all returned. Some bodies disintegrated under the torrent of energy. Some minds fractured, their thoughts lost in the vastness of eternity. But those who survived emerged changed, faster, stronger, capable of channeling bursts of energy through their very flesh. They could ignite plasma from their fingertips, harden their bones into steel, or withstand the vacuum of space for precious minutes. They were named the Starforged, humanity's answer to the Starborn. The process was dangerous, but no one turned away. Humanity had been given fire, and it would wield it, no matter the cost. The training of Titans. The Elythar did not simply grant power, they taught discipline. Each Starforged was trained within arenas carved from asteroid husks, where simulations of the Starborn's horrors unfolded in terrifying scale. The first trials nearly broke them. Vast serpentine forms of darkness, crafted from Elythar light, surged across the training fields. They struck not with claws or teeth, but with despair itself, waves of psychic pressure that crushed hope, twisted courage into fear, and whispered of inevitable death. Many Starforged collapsed, weeping under the weight of despair. Yet each time they fell, Elara stood unshaken. Her voice cut through the shadows like steel. Fear is the weapon of the void. Defiance is the weapon of humanity. Stand. Fight. Burn. Her words became the creed of the Starforged. The shadow at the edge. But as humanity grew stronger, so too did their enemy stir. Astronomers aboard the Dawnspire began to record anomalies, stars blinking out in Andromeda, not from distance or dust, but as though something had swallowed their light. The Elythar called it the stirring. They test the veil, Izirian explained. The Starborn stretch in their sleep, and worlds die in their dreaming. When they wake, their hunger will unmake the galaxies. You must be ready before that day comes. Every hour became a race against extinction. New Starforged were created, fleets of human ships were reforged with Elythar technology, reactors that burned with fragments of stars, weapons that harnessed gravitational collapse. Yet the Elythar warned, technology is a blade. In mortal hands, it can wound not only enemies, but yourselves. Do not let your fire consume your homeworld. It was a warning that would prove prophetic. The price of power. On the fifth trial of the Crucible, a soldier named Jareth Cade entered the chamber. He was fierce, driven, and unafraid. But where Elara had surrendered herself to the flame, Jareth resisted, trying to control it, bend it to his will. The Crucible did not forgive arrogance. When Jareth emerged, his body was a horror of burning veins and fractured bones, his mind screaming with voices not his own. He struck at his comrades with wild fury, collapsing entire corridors of the Dawnspire before Elara subdued him. His body turned to ash in her arms. The Elythar spoke gravely, "This is the danger of your kind. Power without humility becomes hunger. Hunger becomes void. Do not walk the path of the Starborn." For the first time, Elara realized the war was not only against the void beyond, but against the void within. Humanity's declaration. At the close of their first year among the Elythar, the Starforged gathered before a council of gods. Elara stood at their head, her body glowing faintly with the quiet fire of the Crucible. "You gave us your flame," she said, "and you fear we may burn ourselves with it. But humanity has always walked in darkness. Fire is dangerous, yes, but it is also our oldest companion. We will not be consumed. We will wield it." The Elythar were silent. Then Izirian bowed his radiant head. "So be it. Mortals and gods shall stand as one." But far across the void, in the cold dark between galaxies, something stirred. A whisper echoed through creation, colder than silence, older than time. The Starborn were awakening. And the Crucible had only just begun. The fractured alliance. For a time, the union between humanity and the Elythar held firm. Together, they trained, they built, they forged weapons that could pierce the void itself. The Starforged grew in number, and Earth's fleets, rebuilt with divine fire, gleamed like fragments of stars. But as history has often shown, strength does not always unite. Sometimes, it divides. The seeds of doubt. Among the Elythar, not all voices agreed with Izirian's vision. The younger ones admired humanity's tenacity, their refusal to kneel. But the elder gods looked upon mortals and saw recklessness, a species born from fire and war, too quick to grasp power, too slow to understand its weight. Foremost among the doubters was Delos the Infinite. His form was vast, a living nebula threaded with lightning. His voice thundered through minds like a collapsing star. "Mortals are children playing with suns," he declared before the Elythar Council. "Already, one of them has turned upon his kind in madness. How many more must fall before we accept truth? They are not allies. They are weapons, and weapons should be wielded, not trusted. Elara stood her ground before him, though her frame was a speck compared to his colossus of light. We are not weapons, the Los. We are people. And we will not fight as slaves. The chamber blazed with tension. Some Elythar murmured agreement with Elara's courage. Others whispered assent to Thalos's caution. The unity that had seemed unbreakable began to fracture. Shadows on Earth. Even across the stars, the divisions bled into humanity itself. When fragments of Elythar technology were sent back to Earth, nations that once swore unity began to vie for dominance. Some governments declared themselves chosen, draping their banners in divine fire. Armies of new Starforged arose, not in defense of humanity, but in service to ideology and pride. One nation's soldiers carved a shining citadel upon the ruins of their rivals, claiming their gods had willed it. Civil wars ignited. Skirmishes tore across continents. For the first time in decades, humanity turned its starfire against itself. On the Dawnspire, Elara received the news in silence, her glowing veins trembling with anger. We gave them hope, she whispered. And they turned it into conquest. Your kind has always warred with itself, the Los thundered with grim satisfaction. Now you see why mortals cannot be trusted. But Elara refused to accept it. If we destroy ourselves before the Starborn arrive, then we prove you right. I won't let that happen. The Starborns advance. While mortals and gods argued, the true enemy moved. Astronomers on the farthest outposts of the Elythar began to report entire star systems vanishing. Not conquered. Not shattered. Vanished. Worlds, suns, moons, all swallowed by a spreading darkness. The Elythar named it the Harbinger Tide. Elara and her Starforged saw the aftermath with their own eyes. Where once had been a thriving alien civilization, there was now only silence, planets reduced to husks of glass, orbiting a black wound in space. The crew stood in horror as they realized the Starborn did not conquer. They consumed. The council divided. The Elythar convened in their celestial conclave, a hall built from crystallized starlight, large enough to contain entire fleets. Humanity's representatives were invited, but the atmosphere was tense. We must retreat, the Los declared, his thunderous form looming above them all. Seal the borders of this galaxy. Sacrifice worlds if necessary. Survival demands it. No. Izirian's voice cut through like a blade. To abandon mortals is to abandon creation. If we flee, the Starborn will follow. There will be nowhere left to run. The council erupted into chaos. Some Elythar sided with the Los, fearful of annihilation. Others stood with Izirian, unwilling to abandon their allies. Humanity's presence only deepened the divide. At last, the Los turned his blazing eyes upon Elara. You see? Even we are divided. Do you think your fragile kind can endure where gods falter? Elara rose to her feet. Her voice did not thunder, but it carried, steady, unyielding. We have been divided before. Nations, faiths, ideologies. We have torn ourselves apart, and yet we endure. If humanity can rise from its own ashes, then so can this alliance. If you doubt us, then stand aside. But do not chain us. Her words burned brighter than the council's light. Some Elythar lowered their heads in reluctant respect. Others turned away in silence. The alliance held, but by threads. Betrayal in the stars. The fracture came sooner than anyone expected. When the Starborn struck at the Elythar homeworld of Erethion, the gods called for united defense. But the Los refused. He pulled his legions back, sealing off his star systems behind walls of light. Let the mortals bleed, he declared. Perhaps then they will understand their weakness. The battle that followed was cataclysmic. From the void poured serpents of darkness crowned with burning galaxies, their wings blotting out starlight. They moved not as beasts but as nightmares, unraveling physics itself wherever they struck. The Elythar fought with blinding fury, but for every Starborn they burned away, two more emerged from the rift. Humanity's fleets hurled themselves into the fray, mortal ships blazing with borrowed starfire. The sky itself became a battlefield, light against shadow, creation against hunger. Elara led the charge, wielding a blade forged from a fragment of collapsed suns. Her voice rang across the comms, "We are not gods. We are not void. We are humanity, and we will not bow." Her words became fire in the hearts of the Starforged. Together, they carved through the endless tide. But still, it was not enough. The blade of a god. In the heat of battle, Elara found herself before the Los once more. He had arrived, not to aid, but to watch, his immense form glowing at the edge of the battlefield. "Is this your proof of worth?" he thundered. "Dying in the shadow of eternity?" Elara's blade crackled with starlight as she faced him. "If you will not fight beside us, then give me your weapon. I will wield what you fear to use." For a moment, silence fell. Then, with a rumble like thunder over a dead world, the Los extended a fragment of his essence, a colossal blade of pure cosmic flame. "Take it, mortal. But know this, if you fail, your fall will doom us all." Elara grasped the weapon. The power nearly consumed her, but she held fast. With a cry that echoed across the stars, she plunged into the heart of the starborn tide, leading humanity where even gods hesitated to go. The fractured alliance had not healed. But in that moment, amid the fire and darkness, mortals stood where gods faltered. And the Starborn knew humanity had entered the war.